today I'm going to show you a woman. She's really good, brave, and her name is Amelia Earhart. So she's the first woman to fly over the Atlantic Ocean. I'm sorry to say that. That's maybe she's the first woman. Yeah, that's really good, and because it's over the ocean, so maybe she could fall, but she didn't fall, and the airplane is even more than like one in 2018. This was not more. So Amelia Earhart was born in her grandmother's house in Action, Kansas City. I don't know what that Action is, but I know Kansas City. On July 24th, 1897. That's a long time. I never read a long time book before, but this book is interesting. The house was high on a hill. It had 11 rooms. Maids and cook worked there. Dinner was served on fine china. Emily and mother's parents had a lot of money, but Amelia's father had trouble keeping a job. Edwin Earhart could barely make the payments on the family house in Kansas City. Amelia loved her father, but especially her handsome, funny father. So her father was handsome and funny. When Amelia was 7, her father had enough money to take family to see the World Fair. The World Fair. This was really famous. So the World Fair was in Louis Fair, the Eskimo village, and Japanese garden. Each nation and state shows something in its own culture. Amelia and her younger sister Maria saw a big roller coaster at the fair. When she got back to Kansas City, Amelia tried to build one in her yard. Amelia's uncle and another friend helped. Wooden tracks from the top of a sheet to the yard below. A little buggy rolled down the tracks. The tracks were greased with fat to make the buggy go faster. Always the bravest kid on the block. Amelia was the first to try the roller coaster, so she really brave. So she tried it. Neither she fall or not. Dragged the buggy up to the top of the track. Got on. Her sister held her feet when Emily gave the signal. Maria, let's go. Amelia went down head first and crashed. Did this stop Amelia? Not at all. She and her friend made the slope of the tracks less steep. Then she got on the buggy again. This time, she made a good run. She loved this bed, and it was almost as if we're flying through the air. On a cold day in December, Amelia went sledding with her sister. Amelia wanted to go very fast. She took a running start. When she jumped on the sled, lying head first on her stomach, the hill was icy. Amelia was grinning sped. Suddenly, there was a trouble below. A horse-drawn wagon came out of the side of a street. It was directly in Amelia's path, and Amelia couldn't stop. At the last second, Amelia took. She and her sled slid right under the horse. A moment later, Amelia was up and smiling. Her quick thinking had helped her avoid the bad accident. In the summer before 8th grade, Amelia went to another fair, the Iowa State Fair. Here, Emily saw the first airplane. So here, she's really smart. She's sliding down. So here she slide down. Really smart. It was 1909, only 6 years after Wilbur and Orville Wright had made their famous flight at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Amelia did not think too much of the airplane. She was always adventurous, but her love of flying came much later. Amelia's teenage years were hard. Her father couldn't keep a job, and the family split up. Amelia's mother took the girls to Chicago. They lived in a rooming house, and Amelia went to Hyde Park High School. Amelia was a good student. She dreamed of going to first-rate college, but there wasn't enough money. However, Amelia was able to send her to a good private school for her. It was time for Amelia to start out on her own. In the fall of 1916, when Amelia was 19 years old, she boarded a train for the Ogden's school in Pennsylvania. Amelia didn't mind going far away from home. She was starting a new invention. The head of Ogden's, it's so hard to read, Ogden's school was a woman named Miss Sutherland. At first, Amelia did not like her, but in time she changed her mind. Miss Sutherland was strict but very smart. She had opinion on all sorts of subjects, and although Miss Sutherland had many chances to marry, she never did. Miss Sutherland was more interested in her career than a husband. Miss Sutherland was an independent woman who made a big impression on her pupils. The other student and teacher at Ogden's admired Amelia. She was shy but charming. She was a good athlete. She was a good athlete. She was also a practical girl. In a letter home to her mother, Amelia wrote, "I don't need spring clothes, so you don't worry about sending me money. I know you need things more than I." Once, Amelia even bought hand-me-down shoes from a friend. In her second year, Amelia was elected vice president of her class. Amelia wrote the class motto. She strongly believed in what it said. Honor is the foundation of courage. So Amelia was very smart, as in this picture. She can play basketball. So here, she can play tennis and hockey. So she's really good, but she's a little bit shy. While Amelia was at Ogden's, the United States entered the First World War. During the Christmas holidays in 1917, Amelia went to Toronto, Canada. Her sister Maria was in school there. Amelia's mother also joined them. In Toronto, Amelia saw soldiers had been wounded in the World War I. Amelia wanted to help. Within a week, she made a decision. She was not going back to Ogden's. Instead, she would stay in Toronto. Amelia would train to be a nurse aide and work in a hospital. People who knew Amelia weren't surprised. Amelia always acted on what she believed in. Amelia worked in a Toronto hospital until World War I was over. Then she came back to the United States. She wanted to study science. Maybe she could become a doctor. Amelia decided to enroll at Columbia University in New York City. At that time, most men want a wife to stay home. That was fine with most women, but not Amelia. She could not understand why women have to give up work just because of a wedding ring. Amelia wanted a carer. She couldn't decide what carer she wanted. After some time at Columbia, Amelia quit again. She went to Los Angeles. Amelia's parents were back together again, and she moved in with them. Amelia's family was hoping that Amelia would settle down soon. Amelia was seeing a young man named Sam Chapman. Sam asked Amelia to marry him, but Amelia knew that Sam would not want her to have a carer. She said no. Amelia knew that she didn't want. Still, she was drifting. Then, on Christmas Day 1920, her life changed. 23 years old Amelia Earhart and her father were with a crowd of people in Long Beach, California. They were all looking up into the sky. Why? An air show was taking place. Pilots raced each other in their planes. They also did incredible tricks like wing walking. Amelia would fat, so she loved it. She loved it. She had just one question. How much would it cost to take flying lesson? At that time, there were no airports or runways. Planes took off from big empty fields. 3 days later, Amelia and her dad were in Roger Field. It was there she took a first plane ride. The flight was 10 minutes long. The pilot sat in front, so Amelia sat behind him in the back. The cockpit was completely open. Amelia and the pilot wore goggles to protect their eyes. So in that time, the plane don't have doors or windows or anything. So they have just to come in. And there were wind. What's that? Wind. I don't actually know, but the plane was not modern. They don't have no window to close up the plane, so maybe something would fly. So when you fly, maybe a leaf or some sort of birds fly, and then there was a big wind, so they have to wear in the goggles to protect their eyes. The plane bounced across the bumpy field for takeoff. When it slowly rose into the air. Right away, Amelia was hooked, she said later. As soon as we were left ground, I knew I myself had to fly. Amelia was not drifting any longer. From that day on, she had a goal. Amelia was going to become a pilot. At nearby Keener Airfield, a woman named Netta Snook gave flying lessons. A woman pilot. This was just Amelia wanted. Netta agreed to teach Amelia to fly. It would cost $1 a minute, so that's really cheap. In 1921, that was a lot of money, but Amelia was willing to pay. The next year's Amelia arrived. That was $101. Yeah, $1. But to her, maybe that's so expensive. Let me see. 1.00. Something like that. I don't know. I think it's $1 or... Yeah, it's $1. I don't actually know the US dollars. Anyway, so we take it as $1 or 10, 1 or 10. I don't know, but maybe that's to her so expensive. I'm sorry, I don't know that. The next day, Amelia arrived for her first flying lesson in riding Payne's books and jacket. She had walked 3 miles away from streetcar to airfield, but she wasn't tired because she's so excited for her first lesson. She was excited that her dream was about to come true. That first day, Amelia would only taxi the plane on the runway. Taxi. But it wasn't, I cannot read that word, taxied or, but it wasn't long before she was up in the air. Amelia was a good student. She just seemed to know naturally what to do. Netta and Amelia became good friends. At 24, Netta was only 1 year older than Amelia. Netta is the woman that took flying lessons. Amelia wanted to learn all the airplanes. She pressed Netta with the question all the time. When the weather was good, Amelia practiced flying. When the weather was bad, Amelia didn't waste that time. She read and studied about flying. Amelia also learned to repair airplanes. She cut her long hair short. She bought a leather jacket, so she don't want her hair to be long anymore. Yeah, that's good because pilot needs short hair. Because maybe if she fly and the wind there is so high and maybe you fly her hair flying like that. The jacket was soon wrinkled and oil stained. Amelia didn't care. Learning about airplanes kept her busy all time. Soon Amelia wanted her own plane. I think that it would cost maybe $10. I mean, not $1 or really too cheap. Maybe one. So let me see. So it would not cost so much dollars. I know this is $1.00 a minute. I don't know why that time $1 is so cheap. I mean, so expensive. I think that's too cheap. $1 so cheap. That jacket was soon wrinkled and oil stained. Amelia didn't care. Learning about airplane kept her busy all the time. Soon Amelia wanted her own plane with her mother's help. Amelia bought a small one at Kinner Airfield. Netta thought the plane was too small to be safe. Amelia ignored her. She had her plane painted yellow, and she named it Canary. On December 15, 1921, Amelia took the test for her lessons. It was a little less than 1 year from she took her first lesson, but she passed. Amelia was now an airplane pilot. With her pilot license in hand, Amelia flew in some air show. Most pilots were men, so a young woman attracts a lot of attention. Amelia didn't like to be on display, but she worked in the show to earn money. She had to keep on flying. Then Amelia friend and teacher Netta Snook got married, just as Amelia feared. Her friend flying days were over. Netta would now be a wife and a mother, so Amelia needed another instructor. She teamed up with an expert named Monte had flown in the army. He also did stunt work flying in the movies. Monte taught Amelia a lot. She even learned to do tricks in the air like huge upside down loops, and now she felt like trying for a flying record. Amelia wanted to see how high she could go. Amelia didn't tell anyone her plans. she had an instrument put in her plane. It measured how high above the plane was. In early 1920s, planes didn't fly as high as they do today. One reason because the cockpits were open. At higher altitudes. There's not much oxygen. They could not fly without cockpits. So there's not much oxygen to breathe. That's right. Emily knew she could pass off it when she went too high, but she was willing to risk it. So we could not went too high. It took attempts. Amelia flew through the fog and sleet. She finally made it to 14,000 feet, more than two and a half mile high. So that really high. Then her plane's engine began to fail. Amelia brought her plane down fast. She was just barely able to make engine safe landing, which made her record. All thought Emily loved to fly, but soon she found out that she couldn't support herself just by flying. There were no big airlines or airplanes yet. People did not travel by plane. In fact, most people never expected to take a ride in a plane. In 1924, Amelia temporarily gave up on her dream. She sold the cannery and used the money to buy a car. You might guess that Amelia could pick a practical automobile like the Ford Model T. She didn't. She bought a yellow one, convertible. If she couldn't fly in the air, she could at least have feeling of flying across the ground. Amelia named the car the Yellow Peril. She and her mother drove across country and headed for the East Coast. Amelia went back to Columbia University, but again, it wasn't for long. She had to drop out again, and as usual, the problem was money. St. Chapman followed Amelia out east. He proposed her marriage again. It was tempting. Amelia was now 28 years old. Most people thought women this age were already old maids. If Amelia married Sam, she wouldn't have to worry much about money. However, Sam would want her to stay home and have children. Amelia had to decide. To her, the choice was very clear. Amelia told her sister Maria of her decision. I don't want to marry him, Amelia said. I don't want to marry anyone. Amelia couldn't stand the thought of giving up her freedom. The next job Amelia found was in Boston. She worked in a nanny's house where she took care of poor children. Amelia really liked the job. She knew she was doing something worthwhile. Flying was not limited to a weekend, but she watched other pilots with interest. In 1927, a man named George Lindbergh made news of our world. He was the first pilot to fly alone across the Atlantic Ocean. It took him more than 33 hours to fly from Long Island, New York to Paris. A woman from London named Amy Guest wanted to be the first woman to fly across the Atlantic. Guest was not a pilot, so she would set the record just by being a passenger in the plane. George Putman, a book publisher in New York, he was going to avert her attempt. However, Amy's family wouldn't let her go, so George Putman had to find another woman, and this time he wanted a pilot. Putman was in a big publishing company, so he knew a lot of people. He was good at making deals. Putman asked a friend to find the right woman for the trip. The friend found Amelia Earhart. Amelia met with both George Putman and Amy Guest in New York. They both thought she was perfect, entertaining, polite, well-educated. She got the job. The job was actually not nearly as good as it sounded. Amelia wouldn't get paid. A man named Wilmer Solt would fly the plane. He'd get $20,000, and all thought Amelia was called the captain. She was really just a passenger. Okay, let's see what's next. Why did Emily agree? First, no woman had ever crossed the Atlantic by plane. No woman. The experience alone was enough to make Amelia go. Amelia summed up her feelings in a letter to a friend. When a great inventor offers you, you don't refuse it. That's all. Amelia hoped that if the trip were successful, all the attention would bring to her other flying chops. The flight was very dangerous. George Lidburn had made the trip safely, but 14 other people had died trying to cross the ocean. Three had been women. Still, two other women pilots were already planning to try it. Amelia had to move quickly if she wanted to be the first. The plane called the Friendship took off from Boston on June 3, 1928. However, the crew had to land in Canada because of bad weather. Many days went by. The Friendship was not able to take off. Amelia discovered another problem. Her pilot, Wilmer Stoltz, drank too much. If Wilmer got drunk, then she knew he couldn't fly the plane. But if they did not take off soon, Amelia would lose the record. It was now or never. On June 16, Amelia made a decision. She told Wilmer to get ready to fly. They were leaving on the next day, no matter what. On the morning of June 17, Amelia sent a cable to George Putman back in Boston. The cable read Violet, Cheerio, A.E. Violet was a code word. It meant that Friendship was taking off. Through the long flight, Wilmer Lutz and his co-pilot, Slim Gordon took turns flying the plane. Amelia wrote notes in her journal. After 20 hours of flying, they knew they were low on fuel. How could they land on time? The answer was yes. The Friendship touched down in Buryport shot wheels. 20 hours and 40 minutes after taking off from the Canadian coast, they had done it. On June 18, 1928, Amelia Earhart became the first woman to fly across the Atlantic Ocean. What came next for a surprise for Amelia? The trip made her instant hero. Emily hadn't followed the plane, but people still thought that she was very brave. In London, Amelia was entertained by the rich and famous. She had tea with the royalty. On her return to America, Amelia was met with even greater excitement. I forgot to tell you this map. So it's like this. So from Canada, where's that? From Boston to London, so it's across the Atlantic Ocean. Yeah, from Boston to London is across the big Atlantic Ocean. So then, George Putman became Amelia's manager. He set up a lot of public appearances for her. And 6 months later, what is this? She was given a new car for the appearance at an auto show. She also made money by letting up companies use her name. Amelia, so the four-line leather Amelia Earhart flying suit became popular in New York department store. Amelia also became an editor for Cosmopolitan magazine and wrote a column about aviation. Amelia didn't really like to write, but the articles brought more publicity. Many of the magazine readers thought that Amelia would be a role model for young girls. In 1929, Amelia was best known female pilot in America. But what Amelia really wanted more time flying. So a week before she turned 32, Amelia purchased a second-hand Lockheed Vega. It was a big plane that was hard to handle, built for speed and distance. As soon as possible, Amelia wanted to set more records. The first woman cross-country air race was being held later that summer. It was called the Women Air Derby. Whoever flew from Santa Monica, California to Cleveland, Ohio in the shortest time would win. Amelia was eager to enter from Santa Monica to Cleveland, so it's in the United States, so safety. But it would cross at the ocean, is that right? I don't know. The course went over the Rocky Mountain was dangerous. So the mountain. The rules commit concern changing the flight path or making a male navigator go along in every plane. Needless to say, Amelia was very angry. She and other women pilots had flown many hours alone. Amelia said she would not enter the race if she couldn't fly on her own. Because of Amelia and several other female pilots, the comets backed down. The women would fly the whole course by themselves. On August 18, 1929, 20,000 people turned up to Santa Monica, California. For the start of the race, there were 90 pilots, including Amelia. Many people did not take the women seriously. Will Roger, a famous writer at that time, called the race Powder Puff Derby. Still, by that Sunday afternoon, all 90 planes were in the air and racing against the clock. The race was to take 8 days, but there were problems from the start. Planes broke down, landing fields were not good shaped. On second day, Amelia's plane flipped over on landing. She wasn't hurt and she was able to fix her plane and keep racing. But others weren't so lucky. Some planes went off course and crashed. One pilot died in the mountain of Arizona. Really bad. On August 25, the race was over. Only 11 of 90 women finished. Amelia Earhart became the third. Even though she didn't win, Amelia learned a lot. She also got to know many best women pilots in the country. After the race, many women pilots decided it's time to start their own group. On November 2, 1929, 26 women met in the airplane hangar in Long Island, New York. They wanted to call themselves Amelia Seconds the Navy Club after the number of women who first joined. The other pilots liked that idea. Over that several months, the name changed from the 86 to the 97. Finally, the 99 was the name that stuck. Amelia worked to get more women pilots to join. By that following summer, the 99s had almost 200 members. The group helped women pilots to get jobs. The 99s also had an office where careful records of women invitation of assignment could be kept. Amelia Earhart was elected the first president of the group. Sometime Amelia felt she didn't deserve all praise, but the public gave her. She had truly earned the respect of other women flyers, and it meant a lot to her. So, Amelia was doing exactly what she had dreamed of doing. It was an exciting time, but then, in December 1930, Amelia received bad news. Her father had cancer. He would not live much longer. Amelia flew to see him in California. She stayed with her father for 4 days. She took care of him and said goodbye. During her return trip to New York, she got word that her father had died. It was a very sad time for Amelia. She missed her father. She also was under a lot of pressure. She worked for an airline. She gave specials all over the country. She raced her airplane and set to record. She took care of her family. Amelia was tired. She needed help. Amelia turned to her longtime man, George Putman. George Putman was divorced now and wanted to marry Amelia. Amelia has said no many times, but maybe marriage George Putman could be different. George was 10 years older than Amelia. He already had 2 grown children. George wouldn't expect Amelia to stay home. In fact, he wanted to help her become even more famous. Amelia decided to take the risk. On February 7, 1931, she and George Putman were married. Both bride and groom were in agreement on one important issue. Amelia wouldn't definitely keep her hair, and all thought she didn't plan it. She even got to keep her name. All thought she officially became Amelia Earhart Putman. After her marriage, the press didn't like the change. They soon dropped the Putman. They call her Amelia Earhart, just as they always had. On January morning 1932, Amelia was having breakfast with her husband. She put down the paper she was reading and asked, "Would you mind if I flew the Atlantic alone?" No, George didn't mind it at all. He wanted Amelia to become the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic. So in that time, she was flying with other people. May 20, 1932 was the 5th anniversary of the Lindbergh flight. George Putman thought that it would be a perfect date for Amelia to take off. The press would love the connection. Amelia had a new instrument, including 3 compasses put in her plane. The weather over Atlantic could be bad. She would depend on the new technology to keep her finding her way. On the day of her flight, Amelia told reporters she was sure of her success. But before she climbed into her plane, she quietly turned to a friend. "Do you think I can make it?" she asked. Even Amelia had her doubt. Amelia took off from Harbor Grace Airport in Newfoundland, Canada. Amelia didn't think she would fly. It would be easy, and it wasn't. When she went too high, the ice started to build on her wings. The ice made the plane heavy. It might crash. So Amelia took the plane down low. But when she went too close to the water, her instruction didn't work. Without instruction, Amelia couldn't get completely lost. The hours went by slowly. Amelia struggled to find just the right altitude. She sipped chicken soup, gas wine dripped down from the back of her neck, and from extra food thanked. She struggled all night. But when the sun came up, Amelia spotted a lamb. She set airplane down in a cow pasture, freeing all the cows. She was in Ireland. She had done it. Ireland, I'm sorry. Amelia was the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. When she returned to New York City, there was a parade down Broadway. Thousands of people lined the street to cheer for Amelia. The next day, Amelia flew to Washington, D.C., where President Herbert Hoover presented with medal. Amelia was a famous movie star of that day, but her fame did not change. She was still charming and somewhat shy. Even so, she liked her opinion were now heard and respected. The final flight. Then, Amelia wanted to fly the last flight by herself. With another person. So, Amelia had to train with different pilots to learn how to fly it. It would take months to prepare for the trip. Amelia and George hired 2 navigators to fly with Amelia. They would help Amelia stay on course. On March 17, 1937, the Electra left Oakland, California. Amelia and her 2 navigators arrived on Honolulu about 16 hours later. The first leg of the trip was a success. Then Amelia had an accident. As Amelia was taking off to Honolulu, the plane lurched out of control. The landing gear collapsed as a wing turn opened. Luckily, no one was hurt, but the 100,000 plane was badly damaged. It was had to ship back to Lockheed on a mainland. Almost 2 months went by before the plane was ready to fly again. Because of the deadly, one of the navigators would not continue to fly. They left only the other man, Fred Noonan. So there was another change due to the weather pattern. The flight path had not to be reserved. Amelia would now fly from west to east. On May 21, Amelia left Oakland, California, and headed east to Miami, Florida. The whole world was watching. The trip started well. From Miami, Amelia flew to Puerto Rico. When she flew along the east of South America to Venezuela, then on the ship to Suriname and Brazil. The Electra was holding up well, but there was not much room to move around. Amelia communicated with Fred Noonan. By passing notes on fishing pole, it was better than climbing over an extra fuel tank. Amelia was over 40 hours and 4,000 miles away in the first week. That was just the beginning. She flew over the Atlantic and across to Africa. Within 3 weeks, she had flown 20. So here is the map. She had flown 20,000 miles in 35 hours. Amelia was getting tired. She would be glad that the long hours of flying over. By July 1st, Amelia had reached New Guinea. That's so weird. Guinea. From New Guinea, she went to go to Holland Island and then to Honolulu, Hawaii. The next and last stop would be Oakland, California. 3 were only 700 miles left on the 2,900-mile trip. Most of these last miles were over the Pacific Ocean. On July 2, Amelia took off from New Guinea to trip to Holland. It was to take about 19 hours. Holland was a tiny island in the Pacific. It's only 2 miles long and 3/4 of a mile wide. It would be very hard to find, but it's the only place to land and refuel. Amelia had to depend on Fred Nolan to spot a tiny strip of sand to help Amelia and Fred, and U.S. Coast Guard ship was when sent to Holland. The ship would be waiting out the island. If it would send out a signal to guide the electric for landing. On July 2, Amelia took off from New Guinea. She had radio contact with New Guinea for the next 7 hours but then she went out of range. Amelia was supposed to reach Holland Island early the next morning. Through the night, the radio man on the Coast Guard ship heard short message from Amelia, but they could not tell how far she was. The captain was worried. Amelia did not seem to hear the radio message, and they couldn't get fix her when she called out to them. At 7:42 a.m., the radio man on the Coast Guard ship got a brief message. Amelia said, "We must be on you, but cannot see you and gas running low." Been able to reach by the radio again. The Coast Guard tried to respond. However, it seemed that Amelia could still not hear them. They tried to locate her plane, but her message was not long enough to do it. At 8:45 a.m., one more message came in from Amelia. The last thing she said was, "We are running north and south." Amelia was a fantastic search for Holland City, but she never found again. Somebody said so. They searched for a robot, went down to see her, but no one see. So some people even said that she was there. Some people said Amelia was a prisoner of war. Others said she was alive and well, living on a remote island. But no story was never proven true. Even today, we are still looking for Amelia. But she was brave, but she was disappeared. I'm so sad. But anyway, she was so good and that helped women. And she opened doors for women all over the world. She was a pointer who said, "You can do anything you decide to do." Well, I'm sorry guys, I take too long, like 48 minutes, even like take 1 hour. I'm really sorry, so bye for now on.